Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So happy you could be with us today. I know this is a little uncomfortable because we're not in person, but we know you're there. Thanks for joining us. My name is Tom Luers. I'm the Executive Director of St. Francis Center. We are here live at 14th and Gilpin. And so if you hear a little noise in the background, that's the traffic going by. But we are here where Warren Methodist Church stands. And we're happy to have you this morning. We know this is a bit unusual for those of you who have been to the Path Luncheon before, but we think things will work out just fine. We have some good speakers this morning, leaders in our community, and again, we're so happy that you took time to join us for this approximately 30-minute presentation. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that we miss you. We wish you were here. We're sorry that you can't be, but we're happy that you're safe. We are going to present to you today about this amazing new project that we have, Warren Residences, St. Francis Center, and this building that we are right in front of is a church that's been around for about 100 years. We're going to talk about how we will transform this building into housing. This is kind of our groundbreaking, although we won't be breaking any ground because the structure is already built. But we will have the opportunity today to understand a little bit more about this project and how it came to be. And we anticipate that you'll enjoy some of the information that you'll be able to hear from some of our speakers. We have Mayor Hancock from the City of Denver. We also have Britta Fisher, and she is in charge of the housing and homeless programs with the City of Denver. And then we have Allison George, who is the head of the housing for the state of Colorado. These are partners that St. Francis has in doing this project that we are about to enter into. And most importantly, we'll have the opportunity to hear from a possible future resident, Adam. And so as we proceed during this morning's presentation, we just want you to know that what we do with your support and your help. So thanks for being a part of this. Housing is justice. Housing is a key component of liberty and justice for all. Housing gives us all a sense of identity. Housing gives us a sense of safety and a sense of equality. Housing improves the quality of our lives. Housing levels the playing field. If I have housing, I am more like everyone else. Housing is the place we leave from each day in the morning and return to each evening. It's a safe place. It's a place where we can rest. Housing provides dignity and respect for everyone. Housing lets us know that we are as good as everyone else in the community. Housing helps me know that my life matters. We're all experiencing the strain of this COVID epidemic. But imagine when the governor in the middle of March said, the safest thing to do is to go home, close your door, and stay there. If you didn't have housing, how would you feel? Probably left out, as many of our people felt left out. During those first few days in mid-March, when people were very fearful, everything was closing down, all the libraries, all the restaurants, people's places of work, St. Francis Center was open. And we continue to stay open until today, and ongoing we will in the future. One of our guests came up to me and said, "Thanks so much for staying open, because we who are homeless have nowhere else to go." That's who we are, St. Francis Center, being there for the people that we are in relationship, being there for the people who have no place else to go and depend on us, trust us, are in relationship with us. And that's why St. Francis Center creates housing, because housing is about relationship. Housing is about safety. Housing is about dignity. People of color in our community are disproportionately unhoused. People of color are twice as likely to experience homelessness and poverty than the rest of us. Housing breaks down that barrier of inequality that divides us. Housing lifts people up and identifies all people as being equal. We are about to start building apartments in this building right behind me. Warren Methodist Church has served this community for more than 150 years. This building will continue to serve people of our community in the 48 apartments of housing that we are going to start building now. The goodness that people have experienced in this church will continue to be experienced by the people who will live here. People often say, when I go to church, I somehow experience community and God's love. We will continue to offer that experience to those who will live in this building. The people who live in this building in the future, their lives will be transformed. We are starting construction on the St. Francis Warren residences in just a few days. And next year, about this time, people will enter their new homes and live here. There are many people who made this a possibility. The people who have been part of our development team, the State of Colorado Division of Housing, the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority, the Federal Home Loan Bank, and donors like yourselves who will help create 48 new homes for our people. I'd like to introduce Mayor Michael Hancock, who has a few words for us, letting us know that he supports the project that we are doing and is happy that the City of Denver is investing in this project.
Hi, I'm Mayor Michael Hancock. St. Francis Center has been providing vital services for 37 years to people experiencing homelessness in Denver. Through a combination of day shelter with services, outreach on streets, employment services, and housing with case management, thousands of lives have been transformed for good. The St. Francis Warren Residences will provide 48 units of permanent supportive housing for very low income, 30% of AMI and below, people experiencing homelessness who are working or are getting ready to work. This project is critical given that maintaining employment and gaining stability while experiencing homelessness is extremely difficult and rare, and housing is the first step towards stability and moving out of poverty. This project would be the first of its kind in Colorado and a model for the state, but most importantly, an opportunity for the Denver community to show what compassion and innovation can do for those who are driven to improving their circumstances.
Thank you, Mayor. Now I'd like to introduce to you Britta Fisher. Again, she is the executive director of the HOST program that is really the arm in Denver for housing and homelessness. I just want to say Britta has been a friend of mine for the last 20 years. She's grown up in this community working and concerned about the concerns that St. Francis Center has, people in need. So Britta, we're very pleased to have you with us today.
Well, thanks, Tom, for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. And it's great to celebrate the St. Francis Center. I have been working and living in the Denver area for 20 years, and the St. Francis Center was one of the first organizations I got to know. I had come to Denver to help feed hungry people. I worked at Metro Caring and lived in the Urban Servant Corps house, and it was a really interesting experience to look at spirituality, simplicity, and service to my community. And as I was working at Metro Caring, the participants there quickly taught me that while they wanted food and needed food, that what kept them up at night, what really concerned them was housing, that they were having trouble affording housing, having a safe and decent place to live, a place where they felt stable and that they could build their lives. And that made a ton of sense to me. And so I asked my supervisor at the time to get more involved with housing issues, and they turned me quickly to Housing Justice, which was a new faith-based organization that was looking at how do we unite the power of the faith community, those voices for our neighbors around affordable housing. And so those meetings took place at St. Francis Center. And so met Tom Moores and got to know the participants at St. Francis Center and the people who support St. Francis Center, and just know it's a great organization that's been doing good work a very long time in this community, good, hard work, and very important for our whole community. You know, our mayor speaks powerfully to the vision of a healthy, housed, and connected Denver, a Denver where a great city cares for her people. And St. Francis Center is certainly a part of our community caring for the people of Denver. And I think an important part of that is this housing stability. And St. Francis Center has been a great partner in providing housing, not just day shelter services, which are important, but that long-term solution of housing. And so it's been great to see Cornerstone and other projects come forth that St. Francis has been a partner in. And we're really excited about Warren Apartments. We know that there are more than 100,000 households in Denver that need housing affordability, that they are currently paying more than a third of their income on their rent or mortgage. And we really want to address that need. And we know that those who are at the lowest incomes really do need supportive housing in our community. And to see Warren Apartments emerge as a faith community vessel that is now continuing its mission in the form of housing is really special. Before COVID, we knew that housing was central to health, but coronavirus has driven home that housing is essential to health. When we needed public health orders to say, stay at home, for people without a home, that was an absolute crisis and emergency on top of what already had been a crisis. And so we see how important it is for everyone to have that community infrastructure, to have a home in our community here in Denver. And supportive housing and the housing that St. Francis Center is working on is exactly what we need. We need places where people can have decent, affordable housing plus services that help them to remain stably housed and be healthy in our community here in Denver.
And Britta, what keeps you up at night these days?
Honestly, I sleep pretty well because I'm really tired and pretty exhausted most days of this emergency. But when I reflect upon what we're in right now in this emergency, in this public health emergency, I think about a couple of things. I think about how big this is, the entirety, the scope of how we are working to keep people safe and healthy and housed in these circumstances. And honestly, one of the things that I think about are back to when I was a young girl, and it was the 1980s, and there was a terrible drought in Minnesota. And I grew up in a farming community. And we saw people come together, not just from our congregation, but from all faith communities in the area. And we came together for prayer services and praying for rain and singing songs. And we saw people that we hadn't seen before, but we all came together to support one another and to help each other through this. And when I think about those times as a young person, I think about how that community came together. I think about that now, that while coronavirus has certainly damaged our sheltering system and really caused us to have to do things in new and different ways, and think about how we will meet the challenges of this moment, but also the future. I think what will stick with me is not just the hard things and the lives impacted and taken, but how we came together as a community, how people came together, supported one another, filled critical gaps, and did that in new ways as well as old. And I think that is probably what gives me that strength each day to face this, is knowing that we're not in this alone. We're doing this together. It is big, but together we can get it done. You know, I grew up in a faith community, and I think that at the end of the day, what I work on today are some of those foundational values that were instilled in me as a young person, that we're here to serve our neighbors, that we're here to care for one another and support one another. And when I think about the church where I grew up, it was a farming community, and people brought the rocks and stones, the field stones, together to build the foundation of the church. And it's a place where we celebrate and we mourn and we do life together. And as we are here in Denver, I think about the things that each of us brings to the community and how each of those things are special. And we have these sacred spaces, and it's still so meaningful to me, my soul, that people come together and they celebrate and they mourn, and we support one another, because at the end of the day, it is neighbors serving neighbors, and that hasn't changed. I think one of the hard things in this public health emergency has been seeing more people have their incomes impacted and face a housing crisis. And we already had a lot to meet the needs in our community, and now it's growing. And there are more people outside. There are more people needing our help and services than ever before. And as we look at what this means for our community, I think the first place that we went with are the partners that already know how to do this work. And St. Francis Center has been at the epicenter of all of this work, not only as a shelter provider for day services, but also as an organization that houses people and understands those critical needs. And so while it has been a public health emergency, we first relied on the people already doing this work. And this is a really great time for our community to rally around places like St. Francis Center to get plugged in into their community, because this is not something that any one of us can do alone. We need to come together in order to meet this growing need and to resolve this public health crisis and to solve homelessness, which can be done. We can house people, we can help serve people, and we can do this together. We just need everyone to be a part of it.
I want to introduce to you now Allison George, who is in the Division of Housing and leads that department for the state of Colorado. Allison has partnered with us before with the state, and we are very pleased to have her be one of our speakers today. Allison?
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate this opportunity to be with you today. St. Francis has been such a pivotal partner for us at the state with the Division of Housing, really working toward increasing high quality supportive housing, particularly in the Denver area, of course, with St. Francis, but this is something near and dear to my heart and to the work that we're trying to achieve at the state. Warren Residences, I actually drive by it on a daily basis on my way to work. And it's always been such a beautiful place, and I'm so excited to see it and to think of the future of Warren Residences serving people faced with homelessness. This is a challenge that can happen to anyone, and it's something when you think about your family members, and me personally, having had a family member faced with homelessness, it's an option that you want for the people that you love. And that's part of the reason I'm so excited we have been a part of this project at the state and providing financing. Our partnership with St. Francis has been through multiple programs, multiple projects, and we're so excited that, from Cornerstone Residences through Cathedral Square, Warren Residences, we continue this partnership and serving more and more people. And the demands are great for developments like this. As we're faced with COVID-19 right now, we're video conferencing to celebrate the start of this fantastic new project. Our world is changing, and we need to be flexible and responsive to those changes so that we can best meet people's needs. And I see this development being that opportunity. And I'm very thankful that the state can be a part of this process and a part of the funding to make the project possible. I mentioned that I drive by St. Francis Warren Residences, what will be St. Francis at Warren Residences, daily. One exciting thing, I think, as we look at the partnership from the state perspective, is the spiritual community that is also coming to support people in greatest need in Colorado. It's these partnerships that make the best programs and homes for people throughout Colorado. So I'm so impressed with Warren Church in working with St. Francis to make a beautiful home for people as they're coming out of homelessness and finding that safe, stable home for their future. And so I'm so thankful for that partnership that's making this possible. Particularly with the impacts of COVID at this time, it's so important to be investing and supporting projects like this. There was a recent report from the University of Pennsylvania, together with University of California, Los Angeles, and Boston University, that showed people experiencing homelessness infected with COVID are twice as likely to be hospitalized, 2 to 4 times as likely to require critical care, and 2 to 3 times as likely to die from the illness as the general population is. It's things like these that need to drive us to greater solutions and focusing on moving forward toward those solutions. And permanent supportive housing is that solution. And so trying to impact more people by providing those permanent solutions with the support that people need to live stably is really a good part of the reason I'm so pleased that we could be a part of this project and help St. Francis move this forward.
I'm pleased to introduce to you now our speaker, who has been someone who has been helped through St. Francis Center's employment office, Adam. And Adam's a brave man to come up here and speak. So we know you're all applauding him at home now. Adam.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. And thanks to all of St. Francis for this great opportunity. I do not take it lightly at all. It is a great honor and pleasure. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adam Trujillo, and I am a proud participant of the St. Francis Employment Center and PATH program. A little bit about my background. I'm just a regular man who has just recently rejoined society after being incarcerated in the Colorado Department of Corrections for 5 years. I am someone who lost his way at a young age, became rebellious, and began to engage in risky behavior by associating myself with the wrong crowd and becoming involved in negative activities, which led me to committing some mistakes in my life and paved the road for me to serve a sentence in the penitentiary. People like me with a criminal background and a history of serving time in the penitentiary, whether men or women, are sometimes labeled as the rejects of society or public enemies or even the scum of society. Many times they are judged immediately as soon as their history is disclosed and therefore turned down by employers, landlords, schools, and many other opportunities. I myself had to face this adversity when first released from prison. It was a bit more difficult for me because I had to transition through community corrections, or otherwise known as a halfway house. So in a way, I was still incarcerated, but in the community, which to some people it looks worse than just being a regular parolee, because technically I was still an inmate. St. Francis has played a major role in helping me, as well as many others, in overcoming an obstacle such as this. They in the PATH program have played a key factor in launching me into a better future. I can confidently say that they are a springboard into a better life for those people who truly desire it. I truly consider St. Francis and the PATH program a blessing from God, and am highly grateful for them because they don't focus on someone's past shortcomings in life, regardless of how major or minor they are, but they look at their potential. They look at who that man or woman could become and the great things that that person can accomplish and achieve in life, despite their past mistakes or the background that they come from. They believe in giving second chances to those people who genuinely aspire and desire to leave their past behind and become better people and actually live a productive life and become positive members of society. I am a product of this. 9 months later, thanks to St. Francis and the PATH program, I am employed full-time with a great and thriving company called Navajo Express Incorporated. I have completed the community corrections program and have now been living at my own residence for the last 2 months. Their assistance and belief in me helped me go a long way to the point where I can honestly say that I am fully stable in every aspect, financially, mentally, and even physically. It is truly a blessing to be able to say this, especially in these uncertain times. I am extremely grateful for St. Francis and the PATH program and strongly believe in their cause. They absolutely serve an immense purpose in the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adam. Very deep and heartfelt words, and well appreciated. I think Adam's story reminds us that investment in people is what makes changes. Today, all of you who have been part of this presentation have the opportunity to support people like Adam, to support this new building that will create 48 new apartments for people. And by donating to St. Francis Center, you will assist us in the good work that we are doing. I want to remind you that we have a donor who has graciously given us $50,000 to be matched by all of you. Each donation of $100 or more will be matched by our anonymous donor. You can make that donation by the ways you have before. Sending us a check in the mail is fine, or clicking on the donation link that you will see in your browser, and that will help you be part of this PATH groundbreaking event today. Let me finish today by thanking you all for being part of this, for joining us online. We miss your presence here, but we know that you're safe. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or to Andrew. Our information can be found on your screen. We're happy that you're with us. We're happy that you're partners with us in housing. Thanks for joining us.